President has long called for a legislative repeal of the so-called Defense of Marriage Act. He is proud to support the Respect for Marriage Act, introduced by Senator Feinstein and Congressman Nadler, which would take DOMA off the books once and for all. This legislation would uphold the principle that the federal government should not deny gay and lesbian couples the same rights and legal protections as straight couples.
That was the Obama administration continuing to evolve on the issue of marriage equality. Yesterday, 5 days before, New York becomes the 6th and largest state to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Today, the Senate Judiciary Committee held the first congressional hearing on legislation that would repeal the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act. The most memorable moment was an exchange between Democratic Senator Al Franken and DOMA supporter Tom Minery of Focus on the Family.
Mr. Minery, on page 8 of your written testimony, you write, quote, "Children living in their own married biological or adoptive mothers with their own married biological and or adoptive mothers and fathers were generally healthier and happier, had better access to health care, less likely to suffer mild or severe emotional problems, did better in school, were protected from physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, and almost never live in poverty compared with children in any other family form." You cite a Department of Health and Human Services study that I have right here from December 2010 to support this conclusion. I checked the study out, and I would like to enter it into the record, if I may.
Objections ordered.
And it actually doesn't say what you said it says. It says that nuclear families, not opposite-sex married families, are associated with those positive outcomes. Isn't it true, Mr. Minery, that a married same-sex couple that has had or adopted kids would fall under the definition of a nuclear family in the study that you cite?
I would think that the study, when it cites nuclear families, would mean a family headed by a husband and wife.
It doesn't. The study defines a nuclear family as one or more children living with two parents who are married to one another and are each biological or adoptive parents to all the children in the family. And I frankly don't really know how we can trust the rest of your testimony if you are reading studies these ways.
The lead author of that study confirmed to Politico today, quote, "Senator Franken is right." Joining me now, the executive director of the Family Equality Council, Jennifer Chrisler. She and her spouse are mothers of twin sons. Thank you for joining me tonight, Jennifer.
Thank you, Lawrence. Glad to be here.
Jennifer, with testimony like that, being up against forces like that, you start to wonder, will any facts matter at all in this debate among the opponents of marriage equality?
You know, I think the good news is what's going to matter in this debate is that there are millions of loving same-sex couples raising kids like my spouse and I are, and worried about all the things that go into parenting, like hugs and homework and bedtime and bath time. And that reality has penetrated the American public. We are seeing it with the president standing up and saying that DOMA is wrong and anti-family. We're seeing it in New York, where this weekend hundreds of loving couples are going to make that commitment to one another and their families. And it doesn't change the fact that the opposition is going to continue to use these misinformation campaigns to try to persuade the rest of the people on what is, frankly, a losing battle for them.
Jennifer, I want to show you one more moment from the hearing, and this involved Chairman Patrick Leahy making a point about this.
If you have parents legally married under the laws of the state, one set of parents are entitled to certain financial benefits for their children. The other set of parents are denied those same financial benefits for their children. Are not those children, at least in that aspect of finances, are not those children of the second family, are they not at a disadvantage? Yes or no?
It would be yes, and as you asked the question narrowly, Senator.
Jennifer, that's one of the issues that the opponents try to evade, is they try to pretend that civil unions or the various other kinds of arrangements are actually the same, and there are no advantages to the children that would come from legal marriage equality.
Yeah, well, the reality is that it's not the same. And the truth is that DOMA only does one thing, and that is harm families, harm children, and harm the kids who really need the safety nets and the benefits that come with legal recognition when their parents are able to be married. And, you know, not only are there the benefits and the rights and the responsibilities that the government confers, but there is the stigma and the symbolic trauma that our kids face every single day when they hear this anti-family rhetoric from the opposition. The truth is DOMA is anti-family, doesn't do anything but harm my family, and it does nothing to make the American family stronger today.
Jennifer, tell us how you address or deal with your sense of the stigma that children might be picking up within your own family.
You know, the truth is, you know, I have twin sons, Tim and Tom, and they are 9 years old, and they have understood from a very early age how much alike our family is to other families. They know that we, you know, participate in the same kinds of traditions. We take them to church. We worry about them getting to school. We participate in our communities. And they know that there are politicians and people on the other side who would like to tear their family apart, who would deny them the security of mine and my spouse's relationship. And it is a very real fear and concern that they grapple with, and we have to reassure them all the time, you know, that our family is strong, that we share the same love and commitment that other families do, and that in fact, the American public is changing, and the president has said clearly that this is a bad law, and that Congress today is showing the American public the truth about our families.
Executive Director of the Family Equality Council, Jennifer Chrisler, thank you very much for sharing your story with us tonight.
Thank you.
Coming up, Rupert Murdoch may have more testimony to give. Why he could face questions in the United States about his employees' activities, and why is James O'Keefe using a guy in a kilt to go after Medicaid? That's in The Rewrite.